What is good, everybody? It is your boy Pat the Designer back at it again. How are y'all feeling today? 2020 is here, and weirdly enough, the Bulls are still in playoff contention. So I am going to give 5 keys that I believe can help the Bulls make the playoffs right after this. Cue the intro.
On 1, on 2, on 3.
Stop it! Don't do him like that! Mercy! Did you not get the memo?
So before we get to the video, if you are a Chicago sports fan, please like this video. Please subscribe to the page because we do talk Chicago sports weekly and we don't want you to miss anything. So make sure you hit that bell. All right, so like I said before, weirdly enough, the Chicago Bulls still have a chance to make the playoffs, right? Really shows how bad the East is. But at the end of the day, let's be optimistic. Let's see what this team can do in 2020. I want to give you 5 keys that could help the Bulls make the playoffs, in my humble opinion. I also want to know what you think the Chicago Bulls should do to make the playoffs, or if they even should try to make the playoffs, in the comments below. Let me know how you feel. Number 5 on the list for me is very simple from a player standpoint. I think that the Bulls need to make a roster adjustment with one of the rookies. And I know a lot of people are going to say he's a rookie, he needs to learn, he needs to understand the hierarchy, blah, blah, blah. The Bulls need to put Coby White in the starting lineup. I've said it in a video before. You can check that out here. But I honestly believe that the Bulls need to start Coby White. I know that Coby White's offensive production is not always top in the league. I know that Coby White is not always a fluent shooter. I know that Coby White doesn't always come out and shoot the ball at a 70% clip. But Coby White is a threat. Coby White is a threat to do that, and guys in the NBA respect that threat, and they fear that threat, which spaces your floor out much more. A threat that, honestly, you kind of have, but not to the extent that other teams fear it, with Satoransky and Dunn in the backcourt. Now, I think the combination of Satoransky and Dunn has been good for the Bulls' defense. I think that it's really helped the Bulls be a better defensive team than we all thought they could be. But this game is about offense as much as it is defense, and the Bulls are never able to generate that offense. I believe that inserting Coby White into the starting lineup, if nothing else, opens up driving lanes for everybody else on the team. I think you put Satoransky to the bench because Chris Dunn seems to have kind of flourished this season a little more as a regular point guard. If we could just get him to stop shooting random three-pointers that airball most of the time, he would be a pretty good point guard to have in your starting lineup. He's a very traditional guy. He's the guy that we all thought Satoransky was going to be coming into this season. And really, it kind of fits with Coby White because Coby can give you that offense with Chris Dunn giving you that defense. And I think it only opens up more lanes for Zach LaVine and Larry Markkinen to eat going towards the bucket. Number 4 on my list. I don't know who's got to talk to him. I don't know what he's got to work on. I don't know if it's just NBA refs being NBA refs, which has been pretty bad in this season. We, as a team, have to figure out how to get Wendell Carter Jr.'s foul rate down. Wendell Carter Jr., when he is in the game, is an anchor on this defense in the starting lineup. He really does do some good things for the Bulls, but he's not able to do that consistently because he's always getting into foul trouble. I think the kid can be a good player, but he can't stay on the court at the moment, and that is causing big trouble for the Bulls. If they can figure out in 2020 what they can do to kind of get him to stand still. I understand that he's undersized, so a lot of times he's got to go for that the block on that bigger man, but there's a lot of fouls that Wendell Carter Jr. makes that are very ticky-tack, that a guy's already passed him, you need to let him go past, he tries to just smack him to throw him off, but those are fouls that he's picking up, and he has to understand that sometimes you need to let the tic-tac fouls go, the fouls that there's no way you're going to stop him from either making a bucket, or even if you foul him, it has no bearing at this point in the game, because he's going to pick up fouls being an undersized big that a normal big wouldn't pick up, you know what I'm saying? He's going to get those fouls where somebody's just kind of barreling into him, and all he can do is bring his arms down and try to knock the ball out of his hand. He's gonna pick up those fouls, so he has to eliminate the ticky-tack fouls, the small ones, to keep him out of foul trouble. If he can stay at about 3-4 fouls a game, that would be great. But right now, he's picking up 2-3 fouls in the first half of games. And it really, as weird as it is to say, it really is a hindrance to Jim Boylen, who already his system isn't the greatest in the first place. So you really need all your guys to be there. Now, number 3 for me is something that the Bulls are very good at. And for some reason, just to catch up with the current NBA, Jim Boylen is taking it out of the offensive scheme, which I think hurts the Bulls. The Bulls need to bring back the mid-range game. Now, I know a lot of people are going to say that's not the current NBA. It's threes and it's in the hole. It's threes and it's in the hole, nothing else. Listen, guys, the Bulls are pretty good shooting mid-range jumpers. Zach LaVine has done it more because he's kind of in a I don't really care what Jim Boylen says anymore mode. It seems that way to me anyway. So he's pulling up whatever he wants to pull up. So he's pulling up those mid-range jumpers. He hasn't taken it out of his game. But Lauri Markkanen has taken that out of his game. Wendell Carter Jr. refuses to do it, and they leave him open every time. Every time for a 15-foot jump shot. He's pulling the threes, which is fine. Keep pulling the threes, but you got to take the shots that these guys are giving you. I understand that you want to get it in the paint, be big in the paint. I understand that you want to be a dominant three-point shooting team, but you just aren't that right now. And so you got to take the shots that the teams are giving you. Right now, the mid-range game is what teams are constantly giving the Bulls. And because they're looking for a three, it's taking them out of games. I think that the Bulls need to just accept the team that they are is pretty good at shooting mid-range J's. Tomas Satoransky, pretty good mid-range floater. Zach LaVine, excellent mid-range shooter. Lauri Markkanen with the drag step, dominant mid-range shooter. You know what I'm saying? You've really taken away a lot of offense from these guys, a lot of points, and we as Bulls fans are like, well, why is Lauri's point production down? Hello, he's missing out on probably 8-10 points that he would have hit from mid-range because he's trying to appease what the coach is saying. These guys need to go back to the mid-range game. They need to pull up those mid-range shots, and I think that that is something that is really key to the Bulls possibly making the playoffs at the end of this season. Now, number 2 for me is something you would think is pretty simple, but we see a lot from the Bulls. They have to eliminate going one-on-one in the second half unless the moment calls for it. This team often in the beginning of the game, in the early moments of the game, excellent ball movement, good defense, playing the passing lanes. They're moving the ball around. They get the ball to Zach. They get the ball to Lauri. Everybody is involved in the game. But for some reason in the second half, it becomes very stagnant. The ball doesn't move as much. It becomes very much a dribbling game, a very one-on-one game. Zach LaVine trying to take out the guy next to him, which he's got the talent to do. But you can't do that for the entire second half. That's why a lot of times in these second halves, the Bulls get out of games because they'll be trying to go on a run, go back and forth with guys, and the other team will score 3-4 times, and now you're down 8, now you're down 10, where you would have probably just competed, been probably, tied or somewhere in there if you just kept that ball movement alive, you kept that ball moving. I think the Bulls need to hone in on that in second halves, and they really need to focus on where the ball's moving and how to keep it moving, because a lot of times in the second half, and maybe it is a detriment to Zach LaVine, but when the ball comes to him, it doesn't come back out. I think that Zach is an excellent player. I think that Zach can beat most of the guys who stand in front of him one-on-one, but after a while, it really clogs up the paint, and I think, okay, if you're going to play that driving game where you have Zach basically just attacking the bucket, kick those back out. Get guys on that wing. You know what I'm saying? Kick those out for some mid-range jump shots like I was saying before. Kick those out for three-pointers in the corner, which sometimes they do. Sometimes they really get it going, but I think when we see this Bulls team play at its best is when the ball movement continues for 4 quarters. And it really keeps the other team on their back foot because they don't know, okay, is Zach going to finish this? Is Zach going to blow past me? Is he going to kick it down to Wendell, who's driving? Is he going to kick it out to Lauri, who's in the corner? Is he going to kick it out to Kobe, who's in the corner? It really puts teams on their heels, and they really don't know what to do versus the Bulls. This team's got a lot of speed, a lot of athleticism, but they just have to use it in the right way. And if they can keep the ball movement going for 4 quarters straight, I think we would see a completely different Bulls team than the one that we've seen to start this season. The number 1 key to me for the Bulls making the playoffs, and it's something that Jim Boylen has to emphasize, it is something that the team has to emphasize, Zach LaVine has to emphasize. Lauri Markkanen has to become your number 1 option. The skill set that Lauri Markkanen has shown in the past is the most unstoppable skill set on this team. Now, is Zach a tough guy to guard? Yes, but Zach's a shooter. Zach's going to drive. Zach's going to try to dunk on you. There's guys in the league that can compete with that. But if you get to a point where Lauri Markkanen's your number 1 option, where you're running everything through Lowry, where you're running everything to a point where Lowry's touching the ball 2-3 times a possession and he's making the big decisions, or he's moving the ball down low, or he's getting it going early where he can find his teammates. This is an entirely different team because Lauri Markkanen's skill set is so tough to guard with his length, with his height, with his ability to knock down that turnaround jump shot, with his ability to take it to the hole past most of these power forwards and centers who are going to be guarding him. That is something that the Bulls really need to focus in on. If Lauri Markkanen becomes your number one option going through the rest of this season, the Chicago Bulls can not only just skim into the playoffs, but I think they overtake most of these teams. And you know why? Because all of a sudden you have a guy who other teams have to game plan for, have to focus in on, and guess what that does? That just opens things up for the rest of your guys. The fact that we've seen a regression from Lauri Markkanen here in this season really has put the Bulls on their back foot, on their heels, and has really changed how we thought things would go for this team. You need to make him your number one option, and for God's sakes, get him some looks in the post. I am going to get up out of here, but before I do, I want to know your opinion. Please let me know in the comments below what you think the Chicago Bulls need to do to make the 2019-2020 playoffs, or if you even think they should, or you think they should just call it a season at this point. I am going to get up out of here. It is your boy Pat the Designer back at it again. Y'all stay safe out here, man. Peace.